The thing about friends.
We were the best of friends, and that meant that we got on each other's nerves. That's the thing with friends. You know each other too well. On that day, as we approached the amusement park, Justin was rattling on. He just didn't know when to stop talking. Billy, on the other hand, barely spoke 2 words in spite of his huge vocabulary. That meant Justin had all the space he needed to express his opinions on every subject imaginable. The thing about humans, he was saying, is that they're the only species that consciously goes out and tries to scare itself. I mean, we're about to go on some really scary rides, and then there are frightening films, really, when you think about it. I'm not going on the scary rides, I interrupted. Oh, yes, you are, Maxwell, said Billy, breaking his silence and using my full name to show he was totally serious. Moments later, we were at the amusement park. We explored a maze first, which we navigated fairly easily, Justin chattering as we wound our way through it. Then we shot some hoops in a basketball game. Being ambidextrous, or able to use both hands, and the most sporting of us, I won that one. Meanwhile, Justin's ball bounced off the hoop as if some invisible barrier were placed across it. Billy and I laughed, which caused Justin to laugh too. He finally stopped talking. All the time, though, I had a sinking feeling. I was worried about the hair-raising rides, especially the roller coaster known as the Tornado. And then we were standing in front of it, a twisting, curling, terrifying thing that looked like some kind of spider's web or a vision from one of my nightmares. I gulped and took a deep breath and tried to fortify myself. You're gonna freak out, said Justin. Am not, I said, a tiny bit disgusted with their attitude toward me. Don't scream too loud, said Billy, smirking. Now they were really annoying me. They were irritating and aggravating. I walked to the Tornado's queue, where other kids were waiting. You gonna sit next to me, Billy? No, yelled Justin, who never wanted to do anything by himself. He didn't feel right without someone to bore to death with his commentary, I thought, rather unkindly. But it was too late. Billy was beside me in the line, leaving Justin behind us, standing next to an oldish man in his 30s or something. Before long, I was regretting my decision. The screams coming from the ride were pretty unnerving, and Billy's calm attitude certainly didn't rub off on me. Then Billy elbowed me. His eyebrows shot up, and he nodded his head, gesturing behind us, where the man was leaning over Justin and conversing with him. There's one thing I should tell you about Justin, I guess. See, Justin doesn't like talking to adults. He only likes to talk to us, his friends, who he counts as cool.
So, lad, excited to go on one of these petrifying rides?
Said the man. I could feel Justin just dying behind me, and I smirked at Billy. You're bad, I said to him. Positively villainous, he agreed, grinning like an evil mastermind in a spy movie. Then we were strapping ourselves in the seats of the tornado. The seats were attached to a pole that hung down between Billy and me. In front of us were 2 more people, and behind us an entire line of couples. We must have looked like a great big caterpillar with 100 legs hanging down. I didn't have much time to think about it because already I was starting to panic. My hands had gone clammy. My breath was shallow, and I murmured, "Why am I doing this? Why?" "This is an extremely poor decision," I finally said out loud. "Very," said Billy, maintaining his evil spy persona. "Do you think we'll die?" "Shut up!" I said, but the words came out all strangled because we had started to move. You know when it's too late to change a decision, but you wish you could? Well, that's exactly how I felt as the roller coaster climbed up and up, up and up. It didn't look so high from below. But as we slowly wound up, it seemed to me that we were climbing all the way up a massive mountain like Mount Everest. Then we reached the summit and seemed to stop for a minute. I clutched my fists together in white-knuckled terror. Adrenaline flooded through me. I anticipated the upcoming dive. With a terrible whoosh, we plunged toward the ground like water over a waterfall. Let's make no bones about it. I screamed and screamed. And then I heard a sound beside me. Billy was screaming too. And Justin was screaming behind us. And even Mr. 30-something next to him was screaming. Everyone was screaming. Let's face it, we were screamers. We spun and twisted. We flew through the air like arrows. We dangled upside down. We turned inside out. We plunged into tunnels. We shot out like cannonballs from a cannon. By the time the tornado was finished, we were all screamed out. My throat was hoarse and ragged. We unfastened ourselves and staggered away like newborn foals, shaky on our feet. None of us spoke as we stumbled along, not even Justin. Let me repeat that. Not even Justin talked as we walked away. We found a bench and we sat there in silence for a while as pedestrians passed by. We breathed heavily in and out as we recovered. "You're right, Max," said Billy. "That was scary." "I felt like my stomach was going to launch out of my throat," said Justin. "Sorry for teasing you earlier," said Billy. "Yeah, we're so glad you came with us," said Justin. I smiled. "I'm glad I came with you too. Did you hear us scream? We wailed like hyenas." We all laughed. For the rest of the day, we alternated sitting beside each other. We went on many other rides, including a pirate ship that swung through the air. On that one, we sat together. And we had our photograph taken together. We visited the aquarium where we watched sharks and stingrays and other amphibians. Finally, we left the amusement park in the afternoon. Justin was talking nonstop, without taking a breath. I think my favorite was the pirate ship, and then, no, correction, my favorite was the tornado. That was the best. I didn't even mind sitting next to the old man. Then the pirate ship, because on that one, we all sat together. On and on he went, but we didn't mind. He was our friend after all. So that's the end of my story. What's the point of it? I can hear you asking. Well, a story can just be fun after all. Really, I don't know why you're so hung up on these things. I just thought it was a good story. Well, okay. If you really want to look for a theme, I suppose it has to do with friendship. It's a story about how, even though we annoy one another, even though we know one another's weaknesses, in the end, we still like one another. We have an allegiance and loyalty to one another. We realize that none of us is perfect. And we're big enough to say we're sorry, too. And that makes all the difference. Remember that, okay, when you hang out with your friends. Otherwise, you won't have any. And we all need friends, right?
Discuss.
1. What is the author's purpose for this story? How does Max's role as narrator help achieve this purpose? 2. From Justin's perspective, what was the conflict in the story? Compare and contrast Justin's point of view with Max's.